Hello everyone, welcome back to Top Stories. Today we're going into a major geopolitical development that's sending ripples across the Muslim world, South Asia, the Middle East, and global powers. The new Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Many are asking, does this mark the birth of an Islamic NATO? What are its implications for India, Iran, Israel, the United States, and smaller Muslim states? Stay with me, because we'll unpack what this agreement actually says, what it might mean, and what it probably won't mean. Saudi-Pakistan relations are old and deep, rooted in religious ties, financial aid, defense cooperation, and mutual strategic interests. Pakistan is the only Muslim-majority country with nuclear weapons. Saudi Arabia is custodian to Islam's holiest sites and has long felt exposed to threats from across its borders and from volatile neighborhoods. However, despite strong cooperation, the commitments were less formalized. The timing of the agreement is especially important. Just before the pact, there was a controversial Israeli airstrike in Doha during ceasefire talks. That strike, and growing fears in Gulf Arab states about the reliability of U.S. security guarantees, seem to have helped shift the calculus. Gulf kingdoms, including Saudi Arabia, have felt increasingly vulnerable. This agreement comes at a moment of heightened regional tension, conflicts involving Israel and Iran, ongoing instability in Yemen, and the sense that global powers are less focused on Middle Eastern commitments. The core of the pact is simple in description. If one is attacked, the other sees that as an attack on itself. The agreement pledges mutual defense cooperation, strengthening deterrence, and joint response to aggression. However, there are some aspects of this agreement which are less explicit. 1. The public text of the pact does not explicitly name any specific country as a potential adversary which could trigger its provisions. 2. Whether Pakistan's nuclear capabilities are formally extended to Saudi Arabia has been the subject of much speculation. But Pakistan has also maintained its doctrine is focused on deterrence vis-à-vis India, and that nuclear weapons are not on the radar of this pact. 3. The exact triggers, decision-making mechanisms, and operational modalities when and how military forces would engage are not public. For example, what counts as aggression, who decides retaliation, logistics, financing, command, etc. So while some language echoes NATO-style collective defense, much is deliberately vague. Calling this an Islamic NATO is provocative, even tempting. Two Muslim-majority states, one of them nuclear-armed, entering a formal mutual defense deal with rhetoric of attack on one is attack on both. But there are reasons to be cautious. First, NATO is more than just mutual defense. It has integrated command structures, standardized doctrine, institutional mechanisms, a broad membership with political consensus, and obligations that are regularly tested. The Saudi-Pakistan Pact so far lacks those public institutional structures. Second, internal divisions among Muslim states are deep, ideological, sectarian, Sunni versus Shia, geopolitical, Saudi versus Iran, or different alignments with superpowers, rivalries, Turkey, Iran, Gulf versus non-Gulf. If a broader alliance were to expand, it would need to reconcile those divisions. Analysts argue that although there is symbolic power here, turning this into a pan-Islamic defense bloc would be a major undertaking. Third, neither country has signaled an intent to turn the pact into something more than bilateral at present. Saudi Arabia has emphasized it values its ties with India, for example, and does not want to antagonize other neighbors unduly. Pakistan likewise has domestic constraints and historical caution. So in short, it might be more accurate to say this pact is NATO-like in parts, rather than that this is the birth of an Islamic NATO. The agreement shifts several regional balances, whether by perception or by fact. For Saudi Arabia, this pact could be a calculated hedge. If the US or Western powers cannot or will not always guarantee its security, especially amid tensions involving Israel, Iran, or non-state actors like the Houthis, Having an alliance with Pakistan offers deterrence and a message: Saudi Arabia is not alone. For Pakistan, the deal has both prestige and risk. Prestige, reasserting itself as a major Muslim military power, leveraging its nuclear status, strengthening strategic relevance. Risk, increased entanglement in Middle Eastern conflicts, possible diplomatic fallout with other powers, notably India, but also Iran. Some of Pakistan's traditional foreign policy habit is to try not to be dragged into overcommitments. For India, this is a concern. India has already asked Saudi Arabia to be mindful of sensitivities in its relationships given India-Saudi ties. Also, India will likely see this as a strategic challenge. Pakistan now has even stronger backers, and India may feel the need to deepen its own alliances in the Gulf, with Israel, with the US, with others. For other Middle Eastern countries, the move could stimulate similar pacts or rethinking of security alignments. Countries like Qatar, UAE, Turkey might watch closely. Some might be open, some will be wary, especially if this alignment is perceived as targeted against certain states or blocs. Also, non-Muslim powers like Israel will certainly factor this into their calculations. On nuclear deterrence, even if the umbrella is not legally binding or explicitly operational, the specter of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal being involved in Saudi defense changes threat perceptions. Israel, Iran, others will pay attention. Some analysts believe this could slow down military adventurism. Others warn it could provoke escalatory risk, miscalculation, ambiguity, or accidental spillovers. No agreement of this kind is without risk or pitfalls. Ambiguity can be both strategic and dangerous. Ambiguity over what constitutes aggression may lead to mismatched expectations, or worse, unintended escalation. If Saudi Arabia feels threatened from one direction, Pakistan might feel the threat does not meet its threshold. Who decides? Domestically, both countries have constraints. Pakistan has internal political debates over how much to commit abroad, how to ensure public support, how to manage resource costs, and how to avoid being seen as a proxy or being dragged into conflicts not its own. Saudi Arabia too must balance its relationships with the US, with India, with Iran, and its own domestic stability. It will need to show that it is not picking sides in ways that threaten broader regional peace, or at least that it can manage that risk. Another risk is the nuclear dimension. If there is ever a public or confirmed nuclear sharing component, it could trigger proliferation concerns, regional arms races, or even sanctions from external powers. The opacity around whether the nuclear deterrence is formally extended is intentional, but the whispers are already causing concern. Lastly, the credibility of commitments matters. Treaties are only useful if states believe other side will follow through. Does Pakistan have the means and readiness to defend Saudi Arabia in a major conflict? Does Saudi Arabia have the trust that Pakistan will act in a crisis? Military logistics, intelligence sharing, interoperability, command and control are all necessary, but so far little public detail exists. If either side fails to act in a big crisis, credibility could erode. So, does Saudi-Pakistan's new mutual defense pact mark the emergence of an Islamic NATO? Not yet, but it could be viewed as a building block towards something more ambitious. At minimum, it reshapes the narrative. Muslim powers are less willing to rely exclusively on Western security guarantees and more willing to make mutual commitments. It signals Saudi Arabia's desire for a stronger deterrent posture and Pakistan's bid for strategic relevance beyond South Asia. It's fascinating in geopolitical terms because it forces almost every key player, India, Iran, Israel, the US, China, to reassess strategies, alliances, risk perceptions. The details still matter. What is the meaning of the aggression clause? How nuclear deterrence is interpreted? How credible the operational side becomes? In the end, whether this becomes an Islamic NATO or remains a powerful bilateral shield depends on choices ahead. How much both leaders want to deepen the structure, how many partners they bring in, how they manage both the symbol and the substance of mutual defense. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future deep dives into world affairs. Thanks for watching. Until next time.